The holidays, considered to be the most wonderful time of the year. It was the same for the city of Zootopia. Now in Zootopia, areas around the entire city were cold and even covered with snow. Not just a tundra town, but Tundra Town was the current location for certain groups of kids, out playing in the fields of snow, where Nick, Judy, Benji, Finnick, Marvin, Ronnie, Audrian, Felicia, and Gazelle, and all the other kids had winter clothes on too. Nick had a blue coat with a red scarf and blue pants. Judy had a black beanie cap on with a green coat and blue pants. Finnick had a black coat, red earmuffs, and red pants. Benji had an orange winter suit on, and Mervyn had a dark blue coat on with the hood up and black pants. Ronnie had a big winter jacket and brown pants. Audrian had a red coat with white pants, and Felicia had a white winter coat with black jeans. Lastly, Gazelle was wearing a white winter jacket that had fuzz on the arm sleeves and the collar. She had also had white earmuffs on as well. The kids were enjoying walking around the streets of Tundra Town. "Nothing like walking in the snow," Judy said happily. "Something about walking in the snow in the winter that time is just so relaxing." "Crep for the cold," Nick said, not sounding happy. "Come on, Nick. The cold's not that bad," Benji said. "Said the boy with the thick layer of extra warmth," Finnick whispered. "Huh? Said something, Finnick?" Benji asked. "Nothing important," Finnick said as he looked away. "Look, I'm fine with winter and love snow, but it's just so cold," Nick stated. "And well, there's my fur. Since Nick's a fox, wintertime means that he's gained his winter coat. During this time, a fox's coat grows out more fur to help keep them warm. This meant foxes like Nick looked fuzzier." "But Nick, you're so fuzzy," Judy said, adoring Nick's extra fuzz. "That's the thing, it's the one time of the year everyone thinks foxes are actually adorable," Nick said, looking annoyed. "Thank God I don't get that," Finnick said, "since he's a desert fox and there are normally not areas of cold climate. I get enough of people thinking I'm adorable." "Adorable on the outside, yes. Adorable on the inside? Felicia started, as she made a paw gesture. "Shuddy fall," Finnick said firmly. Judy then walked over to Nick's tail and started to hold it. She couldn't seem to help herself with Nick's fuzziness. Nick then pulled his tail away from Judy. "Carrots, what did I say about my tail?" Nick asked, sounding firm with Judy. "I can't help it," Judy admitted. Then she put her paws on his face and started ruffling his fur. "You're just so fuzzy-wuzzy." As Judy continued to ruffle Nick's fur some more, the others watched and were a bit surprised, yet not that surprised that Judy and Nick could also be intimate with each other in front of them. "How are they not dating yet?" Mervyn asked. "They said they were playing the waiting game," Audrienne stated. "Waiting game or not, the wait is killing me," Benji said. "How do you know we can hear, right?" Judy stated as she and Nick glared at them. "You're supposed to," Ronnie said with a smirk. After grunts of anger, Judy then stopped messing with Nick's fur. "You know, it's funny," Judy said. "What is?" Nick asked. "I remember all the times you called me cute and adorable, and now the tables have turned," Judy said at Nick with a sly grin. "Carrots, you don't have to dare to turn this around on me," Nick said, looking all flustered. "Not so fun, how isn't it, Slick?" Judy asked, still grinning slightly. As Judy walked forward with her back turned, Nick didn't want Judy to get away with her insults that easily. Then Nick looked down at the snow on the ground and had his signature wide smirk. He then gathered up some snow, formed it into a snowball, and chucked it at Judy. The snowball hit her right in the back of the head. She quickly turned around, knowing exactly who hit her. Everyone else looked a bit worried. "Oh no!" Everyone except Nick and Judy went. Nick!" Judy shouted angrily. "Wasn't me," Nick said, trying to sound innocent. "Nice try, but I see the snow in your paws," Judy stated, using Nick's snow-covered paws as evidence. She then got down on the snow and formed a snowball of her own. Oh boy, Fennec said, went knowing that this wasn't going to end well. We should probably step back, Gazelle said while taking a few steps back from Nick. Judy then throws her snowball at Nick, but Nick dodges it with ease. Ha, missed, Nick said, grinning. Grrr, Judy growled. She then made another snowball and threw one at Nick. Once again, Nick dodged it. Ha ha, missed again, Nick said, mocking Judy some more. Grrr, hold still, Judy growled, getting even more angry. She then formed yet another snowball and threw it at Nick. This time it did hit him. Not just hit him, it knocked him down to the ground. Oh, everybody else went. Ha, I got you good with that one, didn't I, Nick? Judy said, boasting a bit. She was expecting to hear a response, but Nick didn't say anything. Nick? It seemed that Judy hit Nick a bit too hard, and it was like he was out cold. This worried Judy and the others. Jude, I think you put too much pepper in that last snowball, Felicia said to Judy. Oh my gosh, Nick, Judy said as she dashed to Nick's side to where he was down on the ground. Nick, are you okay? Before Judy can say anything else, Nick got up and sneak attacked Judy with a snowball in the face. Ha ha, got you, bunny, Nick said, laughing. Nick was just luring Judy so she could pelt her with the snowball. Judy then brushes the snow off of her face and looking even more mad at Nick. Nick, that was a cruel thing to do, Judy stated, looking very steamed. It's called a hustle, Carrots, Nick said, shrugging. Judy's nose started to wrinkle a bit as she looked like she was about to cry. She then turned away from everyone else and covered her face as she lay down on the snow. Nick, I thought you went too far, Benji said, looking worried. Yeah, you look really upset at Judy, Gazelle stated. Nick now started to feel very bad. He always likes to have his fun with Judy, but doesn't want to be who he is to hurt Judy emotional. You might be right, Nick said, drooping his ears. The fox walks over to the little bunny. Judy, Nick said, wanting a response. Judy didn't say anything. Judy, come on, Judy, I'm really sorry. Come on, just talk to me, just... Before Nick could even say anything else, Judy pelted him with a snowball. Ha ha ha, got you, Judy said, laughing. Judy, Nick said, surprised. That was downright undermining. It's called a hustle, Slick, Judy said, shrugging, and sticking her tongue back out at Nick. Oh ho ho, Nick said as he began to form another snowball. Oh, it's on. Snowball fight, Fennec and Ronnie shouted. Every mammal for themselves, Mervyn shouted. As everyone else stepped away from each other, they all had one of the biggest snowball fights ever. It was the most fun any of them had in the snow. Even if the snow was very cold, it would end up only adding each snowball that hit them. Cold yet fun. After an hour or so, the gang walked around Tundra Town for some more. Okay, having a snowball war for a whole hour may have been the best idea, Nick said, shivering a bit. I could really use a nice warm pick-me-up, Judy said, shivering as well. Let's head to my dad's tackle shop. He's been selling hot chocolate, Ronnie stated. Ooh, I could go for use for some hot chocolate, Benji said, liking the idea. I could use a cup, Fennec admitted. Me too, Mervyn said. The shop's not too far, but let's hurry before he sells out, Ronnie stated. Don't need to tell me twice, Nick said, already dashing ahead. After a few minutes of walking, the group made it to Ronnie's dad's bait and tackle shop. Outside the front of the store was a table set up, was Ronnie's dad himself, Ronald Bear II. Like Ronnie said, he was making and selling hot chocolate for people, and the kids all walked up over to him. Hey, Papa, Ronnie said, greeting his dad. Oh, hey, Junior, Mr. Berry said, greeting his son. I see you brought your friends too. Hey, Mr. Berry, the kids all greeted the bear. Looks like you kids were playing in the snow all day, Mr. Bear said, looking out at the snow on everyone's clothes. Looks like you kids could use a pick-me-up. That's why we're here, Ronnie said with a smile. Papa Bear, mind us pour some cups? Say no more. These cups will be on me, Mr. Bear said, willing to give him cocoa for free. Mr. Bear set up the 9-tailed styrofoam and poured hot chocolate into each of them from his metal kettle. Each cup looked nice and hot as the kids could look and see the steam from them and got a whiff of the chocolatey aroma. Smells good, Judy said, loving the smell. All right, here you kids go, Mr. Bear said, and he finished pouring the cups. Thank you, the kids all went, before each taking a cup. As Nick looks at his hot chocolate, he thinks something is missing. Where's the marshmallows? Nick said, wanting a little white puffs in his cup. You won't need them for this cocoa, Mr. Bear said, bolding. Trust me, guys, with my dad's cocoa, you won't miss it, Ronnie stated. Well, if you say so. I'm pretty nitpicking when it comes to cocoa. No marshmallows just adds to nit, Nick said, taking Ronnie and Bear's words, but still looking unsure. Same for me, Judy said, looking unsure as well. Just try it, Ronnie told them. After blowing on their cocoa, everyone took a sip from their cups. To most of their surprise, the cocoa wasn't just good, it was extremely good. It was super rich and very chocolatey. Whoa! All the kids except Ronnie went. Right? Ronnie said, not surprised by his friend's reaction. Dude, this is the best hot chocolate I've ever had, Nick stated. It's really good, Judy said. It's like drinking a melted chocolate bar. So rich, Benji said before taking another sip. I use the best stuff for my hot chocolate, not that regular powder you can get out at all the stores, Mr. Beer said. Good call on that. This stuff is good, Fennec said with a smile. Super good, Felicia added. So, Mr. B, why are you selling hot cocoa in Tundra Town? Nick asked. Even the locals need some warming up, Mr. Beer said. Also, around this time of the year, I just share with some warmth. That's nice, Judy said with a smile. I always wanted to ask, how come you run a bait and tackle shop here in Tundra Town? Don't you live downtown like most of us? Mervyn asked. Yes, I do. When I bought the store, I bought it on a whim. Not only that, due to too many Tundra Town residents, fish is one of the most biggest sources. So with that in mind, making money from running a bait and tackle was easy, Burris stated. Now only that, but the locals really love fishing, like me. Even in the cold? Judy asked. Ever heard of ice fishing, dear? Beer added. Mr. Beer considered himself to be a fishing expert. He taught Ronnie quite a bit about and took him on a few fishing trips. He's even known to going on a few with Nick's dad, John, these days. I recall you started to fish with my pop more often now. I never asked, but did you ever catch anything good? Nick asked. Nothing worth mentioning, Mr. Bear admitted it. Well, nothing compared to you and Ronnie's catch. Yes, the Leviathan of the lake, Nick said, grinning a bit. Seems like yesterday when Ronnie and I bagged that monster. I did most of the work, Ronnie said, boasting a bit. Hey, I did it just as much as you. Plus, it was my fishing pole that bagged him, Nick stated firmly. Yeah, with my dad's lure, Ronnie stated. Psst, you and I both know we caught it before because of my wild luck, Nick said, boasting. Wild luck? You wilds must come up with anything, Mr. Beer stated. You really are like your old man, Nick. I'm his kid, after all, Nick stated proudly. Mr. Beer realized that his kettle was empty. Oops, low on the good stuff, Mr. Beer said. I guess I better make some more. We'll leave you to it, Judy said with a smile. See you later, Papa Bear, Ronnie said, waving goodbye to his dad. See you at home, son, Mr. Beer said, waving goodbye. Thanks for the hot chocolate, Fennec said, before taking another sip. All the kids said their goodbyes to Mr. Beer, and a few minutes later, they all finished their hot cocoa and enjoyed looking at the winter wonderland they were walking on. To each of them, the holidays were the best time of the year, mainly because the winter break and no school for a few weeks. Catching the snowfall, seeing the people enjoy themselves, the Christmas decorations, and even saw a singing choir. Hearing them made Nick wanted to sing a bit. Just hear those sleigh bells jingle ring-a-ring-a-ring-a dingle-ling-a-ling do, Nick said. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you, Judy sung along too close to Nick. I guess we all both know we both want to be under the mistletoe with, Fennec said with a grin. Ah, Nick and Judy said, blushing. Knock it off. For real, though, you two have plans for the holidays? Fennec asked. Well, my family's coming to visit. Mean my house is going to be more of a madhouse, Judy admitted while smiling awkwardly. How many people are going to be there? Like 4,000? Adrian asked, taking a guess. I'll admit it. My family's big. It'll be close to 500 bunnies, mostly my grandparents and a few cousins, Judy stated. Oh, I see, Adrian said. What about you, Nick? Any big plans? Gazelle asked. Well, my family from other parts of the city usually visit. If not, then we'll just have a holiday with just the three of us, Nick said. Really? That's all? Judy asked, sounding surprised. My family's not as big as yours, Carrots, Nick said. Still, you should be doing more for the holidays, Judy said. If something comes up, we'll do that. For now, it's just the family at home, Nick said. I'm not doing much either, Benji said. Have a few things planned for the family, Mervyn said. Ugly sweater party. Me too, Flesh said. I think we all have plans, small or not, Gazelle stated. That reminds me, Mom needed me back home after getting a few things. She's making holiday pie, Benji said. Sounds good, saves us all a slice, Nick said. We all better head home, Fennec said. Right. See you soon, everyone, Judy said. The group all said their goodbyes and finally made their ways back to their homes. Nick and Judy walked together a bit more. Downtown was pretty snowy too. As they stopped in front of Nick's home, Judy and Nick stood in front of each other. We'll be leaving for home tomorrow morning, Judy told Nick. Hope you have a great Christmas, Judy, Nick said with a smile. Judy then hugged Nick. At this point in their lives, Nick and Judy were used to hugging each other and not feeling awkward about it. By the way, Judy said when she ended her hug, if your family are still looking for something to do, you can always spend Christmas with my family. A family of foxes spending Christmas with a family of bunnies? I'll think about it, Nick said with a smile. See ya, Nick, Judy said. See ya, Carrots, Nick said. Judy then left for the motel room. Nick stared at Judy as she takes her leave. Nick and Judy were very close, close enough to even kiss once. However, the two agreed that they wouldn't be in a relationship yet, so for now they were just friends. Nick opened the door and walked inside. In the living room, sitting on the couch, were his parents, John and Frankie Wilde. Their winter coats have also came in. I'm home, Mom and Pop, Nick said to his parents. Hey, sweetie, Frankie said happily. How you are, champ? Did you enjoy your little snow day? John asked. Yeah, well, we kinda had a snowball fight, Nick said. And while more of a snowball war, we went a little overboard, but we were lucky to have some hot chocolate from Mr. Bear. That's nice of him, Frankie said. Nick then took off his coat and put it on the hanger. Then he walked over to his parents. Say, Mom and Dad, do we have any big plans for Christmas? Nick asked. Christmas? Nothing really, John said. We were thinking of calling some of our other family members, your cousins, grandparents, some of your uncles and aunts. Yeah, none of them really picked up. Guess they're all busy, Frankie said. Did you have something in mind? John asked. Well, Junie invited us to spend Christmas with her family in Bunnyboro, Nick said. A family of foxes spending Christmas with a family of bunnies? Not really common, John said with a grin. I said the same thing, but we're all close to the Hops, and they're practically family to us, so isn't spending time with the family what the holidays are about? Nick asked. The Wildes and the Hops have been friends for over a year. It's not just Nick, Judy, and her siblings that were close, but Stu, Bonnie, John, and Frankie as well. The parents were almost as good as friends as they were each other as Nick and Judy. Frankie, what do you think? John asked. Christmas in the country does sound nice, Frankie admitted. So Christmas at the Burrows? Nick asked. Christmas at the Burrows, John and Frankie said with a smile. Yes, Nick said as he pumped his fist. I can't wait. I can wait. Still got a few days before Christmas anyways, but being in Bunnyboro for the holidays is going to be awesome. Nick then left to go up to his room. As he left his parents, John and Frankie talked a bit. Frankie felt a bit worried and John noticed. What's wrong, Hum? John asked his wife. I don't know. I just feel a bit concerned about this, Frankie said. Come on now, it's just a family visiting another family on the holidays. What's the worst that can happen? John asked with a smile. Little did John know, a family of foxes don't simply just visit a family of bunnies on Christmas, let alone whenever members of the family are coming too. Driving down the road to Bunny Burrow was the Wildes. It seemed like the snow was hitting in the burrows as well. The fields were covered in head to toe with snow. As they drove, the family of foxes sung Christmas songs in a cheery manner as they take it to their destination, the Hop's house. As they got out of the car and took out their luggage, Nick dashed to the front door and knocked jingle bells on the door. As Nick and his folks waited for someone to open the door, they see the open. It was Judy in a green Christmas sweater. Nick, Mr. and Mrs. Wilde, Judy said, surprised, yet happy to see them. Surprise, all the Wildes went. We decided to take your little invitation. Hope you don't mind us staying over for the holidays, Nick asked. Of course not, Judy said happily. Come on in. Judy allowed the Wildes into their home. Nick, John, and Frankie took off their coats and hung them by the nearby coat hanger. Nick and his parents were also wearing sweaters. Nick was also in a red sweater, and John was in a blue sweater, and Frankie was in a purple one. As they took a look around the house, they could see all the Christmas decorations inside. The Hops were in the Christmas spirit. Glad you decided to come, Judy said happily. Then she goes over to hug Nick. Well, we aren't doing much. Plus, we thought you'd like to see our family of foxes, Nick said, breaking up the hug. Are your parents here? John asked. They both went out to go do some grocery shopping. The other family members are going to be here tomorrow, Judy stated. All right then, we'll wait for them, Frankie said. Hey everyone, the Wildes are here, Judy called out. The next second, the ground started shaking. Nick and his parents didn't seem bothered by this, a sign that they were already used to it. A stampede of bunnies all came down to the foxes. Hey Nick, hey Mr. and Mrs. Wilde, you're staying for the holidays? Awesome. Hey everyone, give us some space please, Nick said, feeling a bit crammed by the bunnies and just around him. Some of Judy's younger siblings didn't stay away from Nick. They liked the fuzziness of Nick's winter coat. Ooh, Nick, you're so fuzzy. Your tail's softer like this. Didn't know foxes would look so cute. Nick felt very embarrassed by this and responded by puffing out his cheeks and looking red-faced. Judy just smirked at the sight. It's so relaxing when the tables are turned, Judy said. A few minutes later, after all the Hops kids had finally gave Nick some space, Nick walked with Judy to the den room where a few of her brothers were playing video games. There were 4 of them, and they happened just to be Nick's favorite brothers of Judy, Greg, Eric, and the twins, Cole and Connor. Hey guys, look who's here, Judy said, bringing in Nick. Nick! The boys all shouted. The boys then paused their game and dashed over to Nick. They all welcomed Nick by fist bumping him, giving him a fancy handshake and a quick hug. Hey dudes, what's up? Nick asked the bunnies. What's up with you? Greg asked back. What brings you here? Nick and his parents were going to spend Christmas with us, Judy said happily. Oh ho, that's awesome, Cole and Connor shouted happily. You came at a great time. We're just getting our game on. Want in? Nick, Eric asked. Of course, Nick said eagerly. I'll leave you boys to it, Judy said before leaving the room. Nick sat down with the Hop boys and Greg passed Nick one of the controllers. They talked as they mashed on the buttons. So anything new on you guys on Christmas list? Nick asked. I'm hoping we get the new Razor Force game, Eric said. It's supposed to be 15 hours of total awesomeness. That remote control of planes, Greg said. And toy cars. Always toy cars, Connor added. What about you, Nicky? Cole asked. Pretty much the same as you guys all want, Nick admitted. But I would be happy if I get anything that's not socks and school supplies. Santa should not be giving kids school supplies, Greg stated firmly. Right? Nick said, agreeing. So Carrot said some of you family members are coming. Yeah, they will be coming in here tomorrow. Our grandpa, aunties, uncles, and many, many, many of our cousins, Greg stated. Seriously, it's going to be packed here. So what's your family like? Nick asked. Most of them are, well, Eric started to feel a little awkward. They're like us. Before or after your family met my family? Nick asked as he raised an eyebrow. Before Cole and Connor can say together, feeling anything like they didn't want to admit it. So they all hate foxes? Nick said, pausing the game and his ears drooping down. Oh, don't worry about that. Our parents already told them about you and Mr. and Mrs. Wilde, so we all know you're good. They also made sure they knew that, Greg said. Oh, okay, Nick said, not looking happy again as he unpauses the game. You're important to us, Nick. We'll make sure everyone else knows that, Eric said. Thanks, guys, Nick said with a smile. Then he changed to having a sly grin. By the way, Nick pushed one of the buttons and a loud explosion was heard. You lose. Ah, you sneaky fox, Eric said, looking mad. One more. Fine with me, Nick said confidently. The boys would play for the next hour. Nick would win most of the rounds. Okay, all the rounds. When he was tired of beating the guys, he walked down the hall where all the Hops family photos were. Nick looks and sees so many bunnies. Judy really did such have a big family. It made Nick a bit down. She had such a big family, while Nick barely sees the other members of his family. As Nick still looked at the pictures, someone called out to Nick from behind. Nick? The voice went. This caught Nick by surprise and nearly jumped. Ah! Nick nearly shouted out. He then turned around to see who it was. It was Judy's black-furred older emo brother, Edgar. Hey, Edgar said in a monotone. Geez, Edgar, you gotta stop doing that, Nick said, gripping his chest. Relax, you're fine, Edgar said to Nick. Easy for you to say, Nick said, looking pouty. But it's good to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. So you're saying I'm invisible again? Edgar said, looking down. What? Oh, no, I didn't mean, Nick said, thinking of that he offended Edgar. Relax. I'm joking, Edgar said. Noticing you look up to your photos. Any reason why? You're usually very good at reading me. Take a guess, Nick said to Edgar. My guess is that you're envious about our family, Edgar replied. There are so many members of our family while yours must be pretty small. Right on the money, Nick said to Edgar. Compared to your family, mine is small. Not super small, but smaller than you guys. Not only that, I haven't seen my family in over a while. My grandparents on both sides, my aunt and my uncles, even my cousins. I haven't even spoken with them in a long time. I see. Sorry to hear that, Edgar said, feeling a bit bad for Nick. Nah, it's fine, Nick answered. I'm 10, so it's not like I'm going to cry about it. Okay, I'm with it being me, Mom, Pop, and you guys. If you say so, Edgar said, taking Nick's word. Just know that I'm here if you ever need to talk to someone. You're really the only person I actually like talking to. That's refreshing to hear, Nick said, smiling awkwardly. Thanks. Nick and Edgar walked down the hall to head off with the others. What they didn't know was that John and Frankie happened to be listening from a distance. When they heard that their son misses the other members of his family, they start to feel a bit sad. Their son should see more members of their family every now and then. It just didn't seem like it would happen. Later, Stu and Bonnie finally came in the house with a few bags of groceries. Everyone, we're back from the store, Bonnie shouted. Hey Mom, hey Dad, Judy said, as she walks up over to them. Hello, Jude. Everyone stayed out of trouble? No surprises? Stu asked. Trouble? No surprises? Well, there is one, Judy told them. What is it? Bonnie asked. The next second, Nick, John, and Frankie popped out. Surprise! The Wilde shouted. Ah! Stu and Bonnie went as they dropped their bags. Guess they were really surprised. Geez, don't tell me you're back to being afraid of us. Did a year friendship mean nothing to you? John asked. No, sorry, Stu said, apologizing. We just didn't expect to see you. Hence the surprise part, John said. What brings you for here? Bonnie asked. Judy invited us to spend Christmas with you guys, Nick stated. But I am assuming you guys didn't know about that, John said. I hope we're not an inconvenience, Frankie said, sounding concerned. Oh no, of course not, Bonnie said. But you know us, we really don't like surprises. Just a little heads up, it would have been nice. Sorry, Mom, I honestly wasn't sure if they would come or not, Judy stated. Well, what's done is done. Besides, you three came all this way. You might as well enjoy the holidays with us, Stu said with a smile. Thanks, Stewie, John said, smiling. John and Frankie then walked over to Stu and Bonnie and picked up their groceries. Here, let us help you with these, Frankie said to the two bunnies. Oh no, you don't need to, Bonnie went. Now, you have known us for long enough to know that we just love to help out, so let us take these to the kitchen, Frankie said. Okay, Bonnie said, letting them help. I'll help out too, Nick said, picking up the last bags. I'll come with you too, Judy said, as if her way of still wanting to be around Nick. As Nick, Judy, John, and Frankie head to the kitchen, Stu and Bonnie's happy faces turn into totally freaked out faces. What are we gonna do? Bonnie whispered to Stu frantically. I don't know! Stu whispered, freaking out quite a bit. Okay, the others won't show up till tomorrow. We'll think of something before then. Okay, you're right. No need to panic yet, Bonnie said. Stu and Bonnie were hiding something. It shows with the way they're worrying. Clearly, the Wilde showing up caught them off guard. As the two thought they were fine, they heard the doorbell ring. Who's that? Stu asked his wife. Bonnie walked over to the door and opened it. At the door was an older gray male bunny. He had glasses and a big black winter coat and earmuffs. Bonnie was shocked to see this old bunny. This question is, who was he? Dad? Bonnie shouted out. Hey, Bon, aren't you gonna be letting your father in? The older bunny asked. Of course, Bonnie said, allowing him to go in. This rabbit was Bonnie's dad and Judy's grandfather, Mercer Jumper. The Hops kids usually referred to him as Mercer as Pop Pop. Don't I get a hug from my girl? Mercer asked. All right, Bonnie said, quickly hugging her father. Mercer then looked at Stu. Stuart? Mercer said. Hey, Mercer, you're here. A day earlier, Stu said nervously. Don't take it like the wrong way, but why are you here a day early? You sound disappointed, Mercer said, giving Stu a glare that chilled his spine. No, I'm not, just surprised, Stu said. This day for him was being filled with so much stress today. What surprises me is that you haven't lost your gut of your... Mercer said as he slightly punched Stu in the stomach. If you want to know why I'm here, well, can't a grandpa visit his grandkids? And that I'm getting old, I can't be sure if I would make it the next day. Dad, you're not that old, Bonnie stated. I ain't sure getting any younger, Mercer said. Soon enough, I'm going to be walking with a cane. I'd be thankful if that day would be coming soon, Stu muttered. If I heard that. I haven't lost my hearing yet, Mercer said, looking mad. I wish I had a cane to beat you with. Dad, Bonnie said, wanting to get her father to stop. Sorry, Bonnie, but you know how I feel when that man you call your husband, Mercer said. Hey, Stu shouted, not looking too happy. As everyone could see, Stu and Mercer's relationship is like when father doesn't understand why he married the guy she did. Stu and Mercer didn't really see eye to eye, but their relationship wasn't all bad, as far as fathers and son-in-laws go. A few seconds later, a couple of the Hop kids came over and noticed their Pop-Pop. Pop-Pop! Pop-Pop's here! Hey, Pop-Pop! I wonder when I was going to be seeing a few of my grandkids, Mercer said as the young Hop kids turned to surround him. All of you have grown since the last time I saw you. I hope you all have been good. They have been, Dad, Bonnie said. Good for them. I don't want any of them to fall into the wrong crowd of animals like foxes, Mercer said. Boy, I would not want any of you getting involved with foxes. Little did Mercer know, Nick, John, Frankie, and Judy were all a few feet behind him. They did happen to hear his comment about foxes. They all froze and their eyes widened. They all looked at Stu and Bonnie, who tilted their heads to the right, as if they're saying hide. Judy then helped the Wildes quickly and ran out of sight. Once the coast was clear, Stu and Bonnie looked relieved. Good thing we don't get involved with foxes, Stu lied. Yeah, no foxes here, Bonnie said, also lying. But isn't, one of the kids said before he could finish talking. One of the other Hops boys covered his mouth, knowing that telling their Pop-Pop about the Wildes wasn't really a good idea. Kids, how about you all talk with Pop-Pop for a bit? Bonnie said. Okay, the kids said as they tugged Mercer away. Now, I'm not going anywhere. No need to tug so hard, Mercer said to his grandkids. Once the Cubs kids took Pop-Pop away, Stu and Bonnie already had worried faces on. How mad do you think John and Frankie and Nick will be? Stu asked Bonnie. Pretty mad, Bonnie answered. Stu and Bonnie then walked over to where Judy and the Wildes ran off down the hall. It didn't take them long for them to meet up with them. As expected, Nick, Judy, John, and Frankie all had the mad looks on their faces as they crossed their arms. Stu and Bonnie can only feel how mad they were at them. Hey, you four, Stu stammered. The four didn't say anything. They all just pointed at the door to their left. They wanted to talk to Stu and Bonnie in private. John opened the door, and Stu and Bonnie quickly went in. The four followed Judy and closed the door behind them. Judy, Nick, John, and Frankie looked still mad at Stu and Bonnie as they crossed their arms and tapped their feet. Stuart Hops, Bonnable Hops, is there something you neglected to us? Frankie asked firmly. Stu and Bonnie went. Mom? Dad? Judy said firmly at her parents. Stu, Bonnie, we need you to be honest here, and tell us the truth. Did you or did you not tell the other members of your family about us? John asked. We did mention you, yes, Bonnie said. We did mention that you were foxes, no? Stu admitted. Oh my God, Nick shouted out. Really, Mom and Dad? Judy looked disappointed in her parents. We're sorry, okay? Stu said apologetically. It's not our fault that Bonnie's dad has fox issues, that he comes clearly early. The question is, whatever he does, all of your family have fox issues? John asked, sounding serious. Why did you wait this so long? We wanted to say something sooner, we swear, Stu said. I guess there's no excuse that we waited that long. There isn't, John and Frankie said. We did tell Pop-Pop later when we get the chance, Bonnie said. No, you have to do it now, Frankie said firmly. The sooner you pull that bandage off you are. Right, Stu and Bonnie admitted. Unless the bandage was already pulled by someone else, Nick stated. What Nick said was true. Stu and Bonnie didn't have to be the ones to tell Mercer. One of their kids may tell them, if they hadn't already. The thought scared both of them enough to quickly run out of the room chanting, No, 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 no! Should we follow them? Nick asked. I think we should, Judy replied. Nick, his parents, and Judy quickly followed the worried bunnies. They go back to the main hall where Mercer was and... What's this about you befriended a family of foxes? Mercer shouted out. It was too late. Oh, so you know now, Bonnie said as her ears drooped down. So it's true, Mercer said. Yes, Bonnie admitted. In fact, they are here right now. Nick, John, and Frankie then walked to the room. Daddy, this is the Wildes, Bonnie said, introducing the foxes. It's John, Frankie, and their son Nick. The Wildes then friendly wave at the old rabbit. Mercer looked a bit disgusted. Unbelievable. How long? Mercer asked. A year, closer to a year and a half, Bonnie answered. Nick and Judy hit it off, and it was the same for us with John and Frankie, as well as all of our kids, Stu said. So, you do see these foxes, knew them for so long, huh? Mercer said. Pop-Pop, they're just not foxes. The Wildes have been our best friends, Judy stated. She even looked at her siblings. Right, everyone? That knew pretty much. The Hop kids all nodded their heads. Mercer still had quite a disbelief about this. He's the kind of bunny that believes what he believes, and he believes that all foxes are bad news. The other kids knew about things that might be going south, so they all left the room. Bonnie, didn't I taught you anything? Mercer asked his daughter. Remember what I said? All foxes are red because they were made by the devil. Hey, we are offended by that remark, John said firmly. Besides, many foxes' fur aren't even red. Our fur is more orange than red anyway, Nick stated. Dad, the Wildes have been nothing but great friends and have done a lot for us. They're like family to us now, Bonnie stated sincerely. Yeah, Pop-Pop, Nick and I have become the best friends, and I trust him even more than anything, Judy stated as she held Nick's paw. You sure they are not all just trying to gain your trust? Mercer asked, still not trusting foxes. They wouldn't do that, Judy stated. Yeah, if we wanted to eat any of them, we would have done that by now, John stated in a joking manner. Frankie then just hit John with her elbow. Ow! I know what I know, Mercer said, and what I know is that I don't trust these foxes, so I'm keeping my eyes on all of you. Mercer then left the room, muttering to himself. Everyone felt awkward about that. He seemed nice, Nick said with a hint of sarcasm. Sorry about that, Bonnie said to the Wildes. It's fine. It's just been a while since we've heard comments like that, John stated. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to invite you guys, Judy said sadly. No, it's our fault for not telling him sooner, Stu said. We all stalled it out for long enough. Still, maybe we should go, Frankie suggested. No, you guys are staying. Like we said earlier, you're family too. So when the other members of our family come tomorrow, we will tell them about you too, Stu said. Thanks, Stu, John said with a smile. No problem. From now on, no more secrets and no more surprises, Stu said boldly. As Stu said that, the doorbell rang. Even though some of them were a bit concerned, they still had yet to see who it was. Bonnie walked over to answer it and was shocked to see who it was. It was hundreds of bunnies outside of the door and on the fields. It was clear that those were some of the members of Stu and Bonnie's family, that they also decided to come earlier. The rabbits were all in shapes, sizes, and ages. A female brown furred rabbit was in her 30s in the front. Hey Bonnie, we all decided to come earlier today, the brown furred bunny said happily. She then looks inside the house and sees the Wildes and freaks out. Ah, Bonnie, there's foxes in your home. Starting now. No more surprises starting now, Stu shouted. During that whole day, things were awkward. Stu and Bonnie finally explained to who the Wildes are, and while a few of them the few bunnies were okay with the Wildes, others still kept their distance from them. Just as so things were stay okay would be a lie. The Wildes did so their best to convince the other Hobbs family members that they were good mammals. It wasn't easy for a pack of bunnies that had foxes on top of their fear list, but even with that, everyone manages to get through the day. The next day was Christmas Eve. The one day before Christmas, after an awkward breakfast, John and Frankie were in their guest room on their cell phones. They both looked very worried as they both tried to call someone. You getting anyone, Frankie? John asked, looking freaked out. No, nothing, Frankie said just as freaked out as John. They actually picked up our last call, so why aren't any of them picking up now? John asked before ending the call. Then the two hear a knocking at the door. Frankie opened up to see it was Stu and Bonnie. Hey, you two, Stu said, already sound apologetic. Stewie, Bon, what is it? John asked. We wanted to apologize again for everything, Bonnie said. It's fine, you already apologized like 1,000 times, Frankie stated. No, it's not fine, Bonnie said, as she and Stu walked inside the room. We should have told them all a long time ago. They have no right to treat you the way they did. Like we said, we're used to it, John stated. That's the problem, Stu said. They don't know you as much as we do, and we and the other kids trust you around all others should do the same. We know that you two aren't the kind of foxes to keep secrets, Bonnie stated. John and Frankie both flinched as Bonnie said that. They responded by saying, Right. Yeah, you two are kind, honest, and unlike us, you don't keep secrets from us, Stu added. While the compliments were nice, John and Frankie both felt slightly they didn't deserve it. They had to tell them. We can't take it, Stu, Bonnie. We all have to tell you something, John said, looking worried. As John was about to talk, a loud scream was heard from the front. Concerned about the scream, the two sets of parents quickly ran to see what was up. As they ran up to the front, as well as Nick, Judy, and some of the Hop kids, they all see one of Stu's brother with brown fur and white spots falling down to the ground. What's wrong? Stu asked. The door! Stu's brother stammered as he pointed at the door. Stu looked at the door and sees an elderly female fox. Goodness, you wouldn't think he had seen a ghost or something, said the old vixen. Gram, Nick responded. Gram, Judy, Stu, and Bonnie responded. Since Nick called the elderly vixen Gam, she must be Nick's grandmother. But what was she doing here at the Hops' residence? That's what we wanted to tell you, John said as he awkwardly scratched the back of his head. See, yesterday, we heard how upset Nick was for not seeing his other members of his family. Frankie's sounding awkward as well. So to make it up to him, to make him feel better, we before you told us that you didn't tell the rest of your family about us, so we called our families up to visit, John said. It wasn't just Nick's grandmother. Outside of his house was about 20 or so foxes at front, all members of John and Frankie's family. A huge family of foxes was outside of the house filled with bunnies. Realizing how big it was, as Judy pulled Nick away from everyone else so they could slightly freak out in private. So your family of foxes, Judy said, twitching, and your family of bunnies, Nick said, also twitching. We're all going to be, Judy said, in the same house, Nick said. For Christmas, Nick and Judy said together. Sweet cheese and crackers, Judy said, already knowing this was going to be a crazy day. Well, this is certainly going to be a Christmas to remember, Nick said with some sarcasm. Nick was right. It would be a Christmas that the two would never forget, even if they wanted to. So after a long and awkward moment, the foxes all came inside the Hops' home. About 4 of the foxes were slightly elderly. A few were adults around John and Frankie's age, and the rest were fox kids, older and younger than Nick and Judy. So Nicky, how long are you going to wait till you give your Gam and Pop a hug? Nick's grandma asked. Nick then ran to his grandparents and hugged the both of them. Ha ha, Gam, Pop, Nick said happily. You've grown quite a bit since we last saw you, Nick's grandpa said, gladly to see his grandson. How about hugs for your Gam and Pop? A male fox from the right side asked Nick. All right, Nick said, as he rushed over to hug his other grandparents. Oh ho, Nicky, you hope you've been good and not getting into trouble, Nick's other grandma said. Good, yes, trouble, not too much, Nick said honestly to his grandma. You're hugging them more than you were hugging us, Nick's granddad on the left said. Don't do this now, Nick said, not wanting to be in the middle of picking favorite grandparents. As he stops with the hugging, he walks back to Judy. Nick wanted to introduce some of his family members, but on the left were 2 grandparents that looked more like John. There was also an adult male and female with 3 kids, a boy and 2 girls. Then lastly, 8 other foxes that looked like around the ages of 20 and over. Carrots, let me introduce you to my family. On Pop's side, we got my grandma and grandpa, Thompson and Diana Wilde, along with my Uncle James and my Aunt Charlotte, their 3 kids, aka my cousins, and my other 7 cousins. Nick then turned to Judy, to the right side where his mom's family members were. Besides Nick's other grandparents, there were a few adult foxes and some of the foxes that were between kids and teenagers. Now on my mom's side, we got my other grandparents, Robert and Nadine Vulpin. We also have my Aunt Cal, Nick said. Then he noticed that she was holding a baby vixen in her arms, who apparently had a baby recently. Besides, her husband is Max. Then we have my Uncle Will and my other cousins. It's so nice to meet you all. My name's Judy, Judy said, introducing herself with a smile to Nick's family. Oh, Nick's best friend, right? We've heard about you. It's a pleasure to meet you, dear, Diana said with a smile. Seems like the foxes are okay with Judy. However, that didn't mean Judy's family liked their Pop still okay with foxes nearby. It feels like these foxes are multiplying, Mercer thought, not liking so many foxes being in the house, even more than us rabbits. John and Frankie then walked over to the respective families. Johnny, Diana said as she hugs her son. Hey, Ma, John said, hugging his mom's back. Diana then smacked him on the back of the head. Ow! You need to call me more, Diana said firmly. Seriously, we barely hear from you every 2 months. Sorry, Ma. You know how it is, John said as he rubbed the spot his mother hit him. No, I don't. You don't call me enough, Diana stated. Son, you better just promise her, Thomas said. Otherwise, you are just putting yourself in a deeper hole. Right, John said, agreeing with this older man. Other than that, Thompson said, before her giving his son a quick hug. It's good to see you, Jonathan. You too, Pa, John said with a smile. While John was happily greeting his family, Frankie was doing the same for hers. She was already being hugged by both her mother and father. Francine, you're looking quite well, Robert said. Thank you, Daddy. Johnny has been treating me well, Frankie stated. That I don't believe, Robert said firmly. Really, Dad? Frankie asked with a straight face. Like Mercer to Stu, Robert would give John a hard time, even with John being a loving husband and a great dad to his grandson. Robert feels that he is not good enough for his daughter. But don't most father-in-laws? John just happened to hear Robert's last comment. Nice to see you too, Robert, John replied. Robert will be nice to Johnny for once, Nadine asked her husband. Why, thank you, Nadine, John said, feeling happy that someone was on his side. By the way, Frankie dear, when are you and Johnny going to give us more grandbabies? Nadine asked with a smirk. Mom, Frankie said, feeling a bit embarrassed. There it is, John said with a straight face. Guess he expected Nadine to say it. Come on, there's no excuse for you to not giving us a few more grands, Nadine said. We're trying, Nadine, John said firmly. Maybe you just needed some pointers from the bunnies over there. Nadine pointed at Stu and Bonnie. They don't seem to be having any problems. Mom, Frankie shouted, feeling a little more embarrassed. Isn't it not having any problems a bit of a problem? Robert whispered to Nadine. Daddy, Frankie shouted out. I feel that this is a bit inappropriate to talk about in front of us kids, Nick said to Judy, feeling awkward. Agreed, Judy said, back to Nick, feeling a bit just as awkward as he was. Their parents might just be like our parents. Stu just thought, seeing some similarities. Long later, after the introductions, the foxes and bunnies tried their best to get along with each other. It worked, most of the time. Many of Nick's cousins found the Hops kids to be odd. Judy's cousins still feared being near foxes as well as the adults, since they all had to learn how to understand each other. So everyone gathered around the hall, be able just to talk to themselves, while talking was the last thing they were doing. They were all just sitting down by the table, completely silent. The Hops family on one side, the Wildes on the other, feeling that their silence was getting them nowhere. Stu was brave enough to speak out first. So, Thompson, right? Stu said, looking at the John's dad. Yes, Thompson said, sounding a bit serious. What was John like when he was a kid? Stu asked, sounding a bit frightened. John and James were both a bit of troublesome kids, but I raised them both to be strong and responsible, Thompson said. As foxes, I wanted them both to work very hard and overcome any hardships they would have to deal with. It's true, Pops. Pops wanted us also to be honest to good foxes, James said. John took his words very serious, always giving others big smiles, treating them fairly, being honest. That's how we got our nicknames. Honest John and Wild Smiles Wilde? Stu asked. Oh, so you know those names, James said, impressed. Johnny lives up to those nicknames, Bonnie said with a smile. Come on now, John said, feeling flattered, but trying not to boast. His family, as well as Stu and Bonnie, already knew how good of a fox John was. Unfortunately, Mercer still didn't believe it. I'm not buying it, Mercer said firmly. A leopard can't change its spots, so I don't believe this whole honest junk from a fox isn't in their biology. Dad, Bonnie shouted, not happy with her father's comment. Hey, old man, we Wildes ain't born liars, James said, looking angrily. James, back down, Thompson said, looking not threatened. I will handle him. Oh no, Nick said as his ears drooped down. Oh no, John said, similar to Nick. Mercer, was it? Let me ask you something, Thompson said. Let me guess. Your parents told you to take the easy way out. Run a farm, get married, have a bunch of kids, and settle, right? Problem with that is that you teach your kids and grandkids about not to amount to anything, giving them handouts, instead of making them work hard for what they want, to be afraid of reaching for more, and to be afraid of dangerous predators like us foxes. So while the damn claims you made are assumptions, my claims are actual facts. X. Mercer's eyes twitched after hearing Thompson's comment. Everyone else started to feel more awkward than before. He's not wrong, Edgar said out loud. Was that an insult, Fox? Mercer asked, looking mad. I would be ashamed if you took it as a compliment, Rabbit, Thompson said, looking mad as well. Mercer and Thompson glared at each other from across the table. It seemed while Mercer had a dislike of foxes, Thompson had a dislike of bunnies. These two were basically a definition of natural enemies. I thought you said your father stopped hating certain rabbits, Frankie whispered to John as she gritted her teeth. I thought he did, John whispered back to Frankie, also gritting his teeth. Well, this is going great, Nick said sarcastically. Judy bumped Nick on the shoulder, implying that this wasn't the time for jokes. The day would only get more heated, so heated that the kids decided to stay away from the adults for a bit. Nick and Judy went to one of their rooms to take with one of Nick's Vixen's cousins. Geez, right? That was a bit heated, wasn't it? Judy asked. Right. I think we're also just a few seconds away from Pop-Pop Smackdown, Nick stated. Finnick would have loved that. How could you just joke about this? Judy asked, looking a bit peeved with Nick. Sorry, Nick said apologetically. You know me and humor. It's my way to calm myself in heated moments. Must be genetic, Nick's cousin said. By the way, Judy, this is one of my cousins, Sandra. She's one of Uncle James's kids. She's about 2 years younger than us, Nick said. Nice to meet you, Judy said. Same. Sorry about Pop-Pop Wilde. You should know not all of us think the same way he does, Sandra stated. The same goes for me about Pop-Pop, Judy said. They're just from another time. I wish they could just put it behind them. It would make these days go by much better, Nick stated. Agreed, Judy and Sandra said, nodding. Sandra then looked at Nick's paw and noticed his bracelet with the charms of a blueberry and carrot on it. She then looked at Judy's paw as well and noticed that she had a similar bracelet on. You two have matching bracelets? Sandra said. Oh, so you noticed. I actually made them, Judy said. It's a sign of Nick and I's relationship. The two of us are really close, Nick said, blushing a bit. Huh? Compared to the grown-ups, you two seem to be comfy with each other, Sandra stated. Then she started to snicker a bit. Are you two like boyfriend and girlfriend? What? Nick and Judy both shouted, blushing madly. We're not, It's complicated, Judy stated, as she looked red-faced. See, Nick and I are very close, it's true. And we both did admit we liked each other, Nick said, red-faced as well. But we agreed to wait till we're a little older and we're both ready, Judy said. Oh, okay, Sandra said, understanding. I think that's the first time we ever truly explained our deal to someone else, Nick admitted as he scratched the back of his head. Still kind of weird, Sandra said, but in a good way. Nick and I have always been called weird, Judy said with a smile. I just wish some of our weirdness would rub off on the rest of the family. Should we check on them? Nick asked. Maybe wait another few minutes, Judy suggested. Nick and Judy decided to hang out with their cousins for a bit. The kids were getting along better, the adults not so much. Once more the adults started to argue with the members of their own family. John went to his wife after having an argument with his father-in-law. Stu and Bonnie were with them too. Frankie, I don't think I could ever win with your father. No matter how I am, he never seems to like me, John said, looking drained. There, Johnny, Frankie said, as she comforts her husband. You just need to stand up to him. Easy for you to say, John said, looking pouty. Then he turned to Stu and Bonnie. Oh, and sorry about what my dad said a while ago, you two. It's fine, Johnny. You guys have to deal with the same thing with Bond's dad, Stu stated. Truth is, I do agree with some of Thompson's words. Dad did tell my siblings and me to always stay away from foxes and never try getting more than what we had. Can't believe I actually listened. Bonnie said, looking down. We all have things our parents told us that we regret listening. If I choose to listen to my father, I would have never married Johnny, Frankie said. Yeah, wait, what? John said, a bit surprised to hear the last part. Like you didn't know, Frankie said. Yeah, but I didn't want to believe it, John said, looking down and admitted that would be the same case with Frankie's dad. And as they could say that, the four could hear loud shouting. Oh no, are they at it again? Bonnie asked, looking worried. Better get over there, Stu suggested. The four then quickly ran back to the hall to see what was up. That included Nick and Judy, who also heard the noise. It sounded like a room was divided, rabbits on one side and foxes on the other. It just wasn't the granddads at each other's throats, but nearly all the family members outside of one who already lived in the house. Words were being said. You no good dirty foxes. Says the business bunnies that always dig in dirt. How about you go back to your dens you crawled out of? How about you dig yourselves burrows? Seems like the things that were getting worse between the Wildes and the Hops. Curious about how bad it got, Nick and Judy went to Judy's brother Edgar to talk about what happened. Eddie, what's going on? Nick asked. Well, mayhem, if you're asking, Edgar replied. He means, how did this happen? That's what we mean, Judy said, wanting saying Edgar to be more specific. Well, it was fine whenever our family tried talking with Nick's family. For a few moments, then Uncle Fetcher said something about Fox's appearance, like their sharp fangs, shifty looks, and they were offended by that, as you would guess, Edgar stated. Then one of Nick's aunts made comments about some of our aunts and uncles on having so many kids means that they were neglecting the ones they already have. She wasn't wrong, but it did make them less angry. When Pop-Pop and Nick's Pop-Pop got involved, it just escalated all from there. Oh no, Nick and Judy went. Yeah, Edgar said as he scratched the back of his neck. That's pretty much how it all happened. Okay, we need to end this now, John said firmly. Then he faced his wife. Frankie, if you would. Everyone settle down now! Frankie shouted loudly, immediately after everyone in the whole room went quiet. Thank you, dear, John said, glad that Frankie settled things down. All right, that's enough of all this fighting, Stu said. It's the holidays, and we need to get along. Face it, Stu, us rabbits and foxes are always going to be natural enemies. It's our biology, Mercer stated. For once I agree with this old buck, Thompson said. Pop, John shouted, not liking the way his father thinks. That's not true. It's all ancient history now, Nick stated. Nick and I aren't even like that, Judy added. Then she held Nick's paw. We may argue once or twice, but we're still the best of friends. Yeah, from what Nick and Judy told me, the two of them were actually so close that they were more of a couple than just friends, Sandra stated. What? Most of the adults, including Mercer and both Nick's grandparents, shouted in shock to hear. Nick, Judy, and both their parents flinched out after their shout. Sandra then moved to cover her mouth, realizing that maybe she shouldn't have said that. Jonathan, is this true? Diana asked. Well, John went, not knowing how to answer. You let my granddaughter fall for a fox? Mercer said, looking angrily. How could you let that happen? Have you no shame? Nick felt very hurt by this comment. Dad, Nick is a good boy, Bonnie said firmly. Him being a fox is nothing wrong. That I disagree, Diane said. A fox and a rabbit together? It's unnatural and shameful. Now Judy felt hurt by Diana's comment. She even started to cry a bit. Mom, don't talk about Judy and your grandson like that, John said firmly at her mom. Judy is more than important to be Nick and us. And it's fine if we're talking about friendship, but not the other way, Robert stated. Hopefully, they'll get over with it when they're older, Robert said. Dad, Frankie shouted angrily. There is nothing wrong with Nick and Judy being together when they're older. Times changes. Not enough for them to be ready for this, Robert said. Okay, you know what, old man? John said angrily at Robert. Before you know it, even Nick and Judy's own parents were joining the argument. But unlike the others, they were actually defending their kids and their relationship. Nick and Judy felt like it was getting too heated for them to handle. After a moment of screaming and shouting, John, Frankie, Stu, and Bonnie had enough. "Everyone be quiet!" the four parents shouted loudly. "You are upsetting most of our children, especially Judy and Nick," Bonnie stated firmly. As Bonnie said that, the others realized something. Nick and Judy were not around. "Wait a second, where are they?" Stu asked. "Nick? Nick?" John said, looking left and right. "Judy? Judy?" Bonnie said, looking worried. "Nick, Judy, where are you?" Frankie said. The two children were nowhere to be seen. It was because they left the house. Nick and Judy had their coats on as they walked in the snow. Both Nick and Judy looked very angry with their families. Not wanting to go back there, they headed up to the only place they could think of. They stopped by the big blue house and walked over to the front door and knocked on it. They were really hoping that the person living inside was home. As the door opened, it was Gideon Gray in a green Christmas sweater, like Nick's in his winter coat also came in. "Judy, city boy?" Gideon asked, surprised. But happy to see them. "I didn't even know you were in town. What brings you all here?" "Adults suck," Nick said angrily. "They're the worst," Judy said, just as mad as Nick. "Did something happen?" Gideon asked. "My extended family is at my house right now," Judy stated. "As well as my extended family," Nick said. "Our families are at the same house at the same time," Nick and Judy started it together. "Please come in," Gideon said, allowing Nick and Judy to come in. He had already had a good guess on what was happening right now. As Nick and Judy went inside Gideon's home, Gideon would close the door behind them. "Sorry for bothering you and your family. We just don't have any other place to go," Judy said to Gideon as she and Nick take off their coats and hang them on the rack. "It's fine. I'm sure they won't mind a guest," Gideon said. "Ma, Pa, everyone else, we have guests." Several foxes came into the room. A male fox with a portly and slightly muscular body, as well as blue overalls over a red long-sleeve shirt and a hairdo similar to Gideon. This was Gideon's dad, Joe Gray. There was also a female fox with redder fur and a white sweater with a tan striped apron and blue jeans. This was Gideon's mom, Janine. And there were also a little girl fox around the ages of 5 and 6 with a red sweater and blue skirt. This was Gideon's little sister, Kathy. There was also an elderly vixen with glasses and a cane. This was Gideon's grandma, who goes by the name Mama G. And there was also a few other members of Gideon's family. "Nick, Judy, what brings you all here?" Joe asked in a southern accent. "Hey, Mr. Gray," Judy and Nick said, greeting the fox. "Nicky," Kathy said, as she glomped Nick by surprise. "Whoa," Nick shouted. "Kathy, what did I just say about glomping Nick?" Gideon asked. "That it's okay as long as he doesn't mind?" Kathy asked as she was looking innocent. I don't actually, but you're hugging me a bit too tight," Nick told Kathy. "Sorry, she still is just a cute little crush on him, as you could tell," Gideon stated to Nick. Gideon then pulled Kathy away from Nick. "Little sis, I told you, he belongs to Judy." "No, I don't. And no, he doesn't," Nick and Judy shouted, both blushing a bit. "But you two already kissed and everything," Gideon said with a grin. "I regret giving you that information," Judy said, blushing and looking mad. "So why exactly are you two here?" Gideon asked. "Something about your families?" "My parents never told the other family members of my family and that they are good friends with the Wildes, including my speciest Pop-Pop," Judy stated. "Then before knowing that, my parents called the other member of my family over, including my specialist Pop-Pop," Nick said. "Then once again, the archery happens in the Hops' homes. We couldn't deal with all that fighting anymore. Even with our own parents were getting involved, so we left," Judy stated. "Knowing them, they're probably still at it," Nick said as he crossed his arms. "I'm sorry to hear that," Janine said to the two kids. "If you really want to, you can stay here and enjoy Christmas with us." "Thank you, Mr. Gray," Nick and Judy said, being grateful. Gideon's grandma, Mama, walked over to Nick and started mushing his face. "Nicky, you're still looking thin. Are you eating enough?" Mama G asked as she continued to smush his face. "I eat enough, Mama G," Nick said to Mama as he slightly moves her paws away from his face. "Free meals and snacks. City food must not give you enough. You're practically still a twig," Mama G said as she feels Nick's arms. She then pulled Nick. Come to the kitchen and have some of Mama's lemon bars. Well, if you insist, Nick said, smiling and wanting some lemon bars. I like lemon bars, Judy uttered as she followed them. As the two go off and enjoy some goodies from Gideon's granny, things were still upside down at the Hops' home. When Nick and Judy went missing, their families got worried, and they searched throughout all the house. I just noticed their coats are gone, Stu stated. They must have left the house because of all this fighting, Bonnie said. Huh, I'm actually surprised you are even able to notice one of your kids missing, let alone any of them, Thompson said. Watch your mouth, Fox, Mercer said angrily at Thompson. Enough, both of you, John and Stu shouted, having enough. Our kids have ran off and we don't know where they are, Stu stated firmly. We can't keep arguing like this. That's why Nick and Judy ran off in the first place, John said. Maybe they ran off because of your poor parenting, Robert said firmly. Excuse me? John said, looking angrily. Our grandson gets this behavior from you, Robert stated to John. Excuse me, John said, getting really angry. Dad, enough, Frankie said, being down with her father's outburst. No, John said, halting his wife. I'll handle him. John then walked in front of Robert with a serious look on his face. Robert, shut up, old man! And as he shouted, it shook everyone in the entire room. This would be the first time John had ever told his father-in-law to shut up. For the longest time, you keep thinking I'm a little troublemaker that married your daughter and that I wasn't good enough for her. But guess what? I'm more than good enough for her, and I don't need your approval. I love her and your grandson more than anything else in this world. I am not going anywhere, so deal with it. After that, Robert was in silence. This was a side that he didn't know existed in John, angry at someone who cares about his wife and child. Johnny, as good as it was to let that out, now was not really a good time, Bonnie stated as she grabs a few coats and passes it to Stu. The main thing to do is find Nick and Judy, Stu said as he was tossing John one of the coats. Right, John said as he puts on his coat. They couldn't have gone too far, so let's hurry. We'll help you, Mercer said, actually willing to help. Help? Bonnie and John and Frankie and I are going to look for them. Just us four of us. You all have done enough, Stu stated. They ran off because of all your bickering. All they wanted to do is spend a nice Christmas with their families, but now they all may have gone and you ruined it, Frankie stated. Yet, we're partly to blame too, Bonnie stated. We never should have stalled on telling you the truth. We should have just told you we were all friends with foxes, and we didn't like hearing your beliefs about them. The Wildes are nothing like we heard about foxes. One way or another, like it or not, we're all family, John stated, so we're off to get our kids back. John, Stu, Frankie, and Bonnie all made their way up to the door. Is there any way we can help? Mercer asked. If you really want to help, get along with each other, Stu said firmly. If not, then I think it's best you all leave, Bonnie said. 'Cause with the way things are, John said. It'll probably have been better if you never came, Frankie added. With that said, all the parents left the house, leaving many of the family members with hurt feelings. Some of the hop kids in the area left the room as they didn't really know what to say either. Edgar then walked up to both families to say something. Nick and Judy make it so easy to get along with each other. Why is it hard for you all? Edgar asked before being on his way. Edgar had a point. Nick and Judy may argue once or twice, but they always got along ever since they met. Compared to their families, they were like two sides at war, but now they all felt like they were close to losing their own families. Meanwhile, Nick and Judy were still enjoying their time with the Greys. Nick was stuffing his face with one of Mama's lemon bars. Judy was having herself some hot chocolate. Kids, your grandma made some awesome lemon bars, Nick said with his mouth full. Well, I wouldn't have this particular roundness if she was a bad baker, Gideon said as he patted his stomach. Nick then froze for a moment before taking another bite of the lemon bar that he felt he ate too much of them. He may end up having a body fatigue similar to Gideon over the skinny one. Nick then slowly put the rest of his lemon bar back on his plate. Worried about your figure, Slick? Judy asked with a smirk. No, Nick stated firmly. I'm just not trying to hog all the sweets. Judy and Gideon went with sly grins. Nick and Judy admired Gideon's home. It didn't have many decorations compared to the Hops' home, but it was nice. A few wreaths, stockings by the fireplace, and even a nice little tree. But the best part, no bickering family members. This is the kind of Christmas I wanted, Nick said with peace in mind. I couldn't agree more, Judy said, agreeing with Nick. Is it really that bad at your home? Janine asked. That is without a doubt the understatement of the year, Judy said. Like I told Judy and my cousin, I think her pop-up and my pop-up were close to having a pop-up smackdown, Nick said. If Finnick was here, he would have wanted us to place bets. You're not wrong, Gideon said as he shrugged. The worst part is that my parents didn't even bother telling the other family members of my family about Nick and Mr. and Mrs. Wilde, Judy said. It didn't help that my parents didn't say anything about Judy and her family either, Nick said with his arms crossed. Why can't they just be like us? Now, don't go blaming your folks just yet. We all make mistakes every now and then. What matters is that what we do to make up for them, Joe stated. We're sure things will work out in the end, Janine said. Things have always worked out for you two, Gideon stated. Gideon and his parents were right, but then again, Nick and Judy knew their families, and it wasn't like they were going to get along after one day. After a moment, they all heard some knocking at the door. Who's that at the door? Joe asked before walking over to the door. He then opens up to see it's John, Stu, Frankie, and Bonnie. Johnny! Joe shouted as he was excited to see John. Hey, Joe. Oh! John said, before being hugged tightly by Joe. Joe, buddy, too tight. Oh, sorry, Joe said as he puts John down. He then also noticed that Stu, Bonnie, and Frankie were there too. Stu, Bonnie, and Frankie. Joe then held Frankie's paw. As radiant as always. Janine said, from behind looking a bit mad. Joe then started to look scared. But not as radiant as my beautiful wife, Joe said as he quickly walked over to Janine and kissed her on the cheek. Nick and Judy ran off. Are they here or have you seen them? Stu asked. Actually, they are here right now, Janine told them. Oh, thank goodness, Frankie and Bonnie said, looking relieved. Joe and Janine then allowed the parents inside their house. The four of them spotted Nick and Judy on the couch. Nick, Judy, there you two are. We were so worried about you, Bonnie said. Look, Nick, they actually noticed that we're missing, Judy said, sounding a bit mad. Hello, Mother, Father, and Mr. and Mrs. Hops, Nick said with the former matter. To John, this was a stab in the chest. Whenever Nick was formal calling his parents Mother and Father instead of Mom and Pop, he was angry with them. You're both pretty mad with us, are you? Stu asked. Very, Nick and Judy said firmly. Gideon and his family, that there was some tension. I think we'll all leave if you all to talk, Gideon said, feeling the awkwardness in the room. With that, Gideon with the other members of his family left the room, leaving Nick, Judy with their parents. How could you not tell the other members of our family about Nick and the others, especially Pop-Pop's the way he is? Judy asked her parents. And how could you let Pop-Pop and Graham say those things about the Hops and about Judy? Nick asked his parents. We are sorry, the parents said apologetically. About what? Hiding the truth for so long, or the constant fighting? Judy asked. The parents were really feeling crummy. Mostly Stu and Bonnie, since they waited for the longest to tell anyone in their family about the Wildes. Stu and Bonnie went over to Judy, and John and Frankie went over to Nick. Judith, we are sorry we didn't tell Pop-Pop or the others about the Wildes, Bonnie said. We have no real excuse for pushing it back for so long. Nicholas, we are sorry if the things happened the way they did, Frankie said. It's just that we saw how sad you were for not seeing the other members of your family. We thought it might be a good idea just to bring them. We had no idea things would get so elevated, Stu said, feeling very apologetic. A family of foxes teaming up with a bunch of bunnies, when it was just the three of us, was fine, but not like 20 of us, Nick stated firmly. Boy's got a point. There's a bit of a red flag somewhere down the line, John admitted. Then he got bumped in the gut by Frankie's elbow. Ow! Anyway, we told them if they can't get along with each other, they can leave, Frankie said. Really? Nick and Judy said, looking surprised. Yeah, Frankie said. It doesn't matter if they're family or not. We're all family too, Stu said with a smile. So if they really do leave, Nick said, then it'll be just us and the regular Hops family members, John said. Just like it should be. No more fighting. Just a regular nice Christmas evening. Nick and Judy thought about it for a moment. The truth is, what they really wanted. A nice, peaceful Christmas. If they can't have it with their extended families, then they will just have it with the regular members of the family. So what do you kids say? Can you please come back home? Stu pleaded. I suppose we can come back, Judy said, willing to head back. She then looks at Nick. What do you think, Nick? I guess we can forgive our parents this time. Since we're both such good kids, Nick said with his usual smirk. Good kids that still ran off, John said with a straight face. Only 'cause you wouldn't stop fighting, Nick added. Fair enough, the parents all went. So we're good? John asked Nick. Yes, Pop, we're good, Nick said with a smile. John felt his heart swell. Hearing his son call him Pop again filled him with relief. All right, let's head back now, Bonnie said happily. Hopefully, it's not a huge murder scene, Stu said, looking worried. Stu, Bonnie whispered angrily. I don't think things will be that bad. Before leaving, I did yell at Robert and told him to shut up, John said. Then he started to have a freak-out look on his face. Sweet cobblers, I yelled at Robert and told him to shut up. If it's not a murder scene now, it might be when we get back. We don't want to go back? Frankie asked. We kind of have to, John said, not sounding too happy. Gideon, we're leaving, Judy shouted out. Thanks for the hospitality and the lemon bars, Nick shouted out. You're welcome, Gideon shouted from the back. Y'all can come back any time, Joe shouted from the back. And with that, the free rabbits and free foxes made their way back to the Hops house. After a few minutes of walking, they finally made it back to the house. They stopped at the front of the door. They were all stunned by what they were hearing, or rather what they weren't hearing. I don't hear any yelling, Judy said. Me neither, Nick said. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? Bonnie asked. Only one way to find out, Stu said as he gets his key out. Stu then opens the door and they all expected the worst, but to their surprise, everything was peaceful. Super peaceful. Not only that, the Hops family members and the Wilde family members were actually talking with each other, smiling. It was different than earlier. This is a surprise to six. What the? Stu and John said, Everything's fine, Nick said a little dumbfounded. No one's at each other's throats, Judy asked. You sound surprised, Mercer said as he walked over to the six. Beside him was Thompson. Pop, Judy asked. She noticed that Thompson was just inches away from him. You're with Nick's grandpa, and not trying to kill each other? What happened? Nick asked. After your parents sent us straight, we all got to talking. Truth be told, some of us actually have a lot in common, Thompson stated. Like being old fools that think with their eyes and not with their heads, Mercer said. Bonnie, I should have never told you or your brothers and sisters about how untrustworthy all foxes are. It's such an awful way to think about all foxes. And John, your mother and I owe you an apology for some of the things we said too, Thompson said apologetically. While many of it is true, we should have never have came out the way it did. We're sorry. The grandfathers then all looked at their grandchildren. Judy, Mercer said. Nick, Thompson said. We hope you could forgive these old fools, Mercer and Thompson said on their knees. I suppose we can forgive you, Judy said with a smirk. But only if you give us extra presents next time our birthdays come up, Nick said with a smirk. Expect a big list. A huge list, Judy said. Ha ha ha. Mercer and Thompson laughed awkwardly. Mercer and Thompson then left and chatted about it while having a beer. Wow, the two stubborn old men finally making peace with each other. Never thought I would see the day, Stu said. Neither did I, John said, agreeing with Stu. Guess things are all good now. Then they all hear a loud shout that put a chill to their spines. Jonathan! The shout was from Robert. Cobblers, John uttered. He knew that Robert wanted to talk to him about what he said earlier. Then he faced his wife. Frankie, if he kills me, I love you. Nicky, average your daddy if he does. Robert then walked over to John's front and glared at him with a serious glare. Listen, Robert, about earlier, John said, even in a scared manner. Stop, John said, halting John from saying anything else. Over 20 years, and that was the first time you ever talked to me like that. And I must say, a smile then came across until Robert's face. About time. What? John said, a bit beyond surprised by Robert's words. What? Frankie asked, surprised as well. John, I always knew you were a good guy. It was clear that you loved my daughter and my grandson dearly, but you always seem too afraid when it comes to facing me. A good father needs to stay strong no matter who's in their way, and prove that today, Robert said, then places his paw on John's left shoulder. You're a good son-in-law, John. John then started to get emotional. Did you just call me your son? John asked, already getting teary. I said son-in-law, Robert stated firmly. That still counts for me, Daddy, John said before hugging Robert. Robert just patted Nick on the back 2 times. Frankie felt a bit weird, but happy that her father finally acknowledged John. The others seemed to be happy about it. Seems like everything they did really worked out. Later that day, everyone was telling a story until they heard the doorbell ring. Curious about who it was this time, Judy and Nick walked over to the door and opened it. To them, it was the biggest surprise yet. It was all their friends and their family, even both from the Bunny Burrow and Zootopia. Gideon's family, Benji's family, Charla and Gareth's family, Mervin's family, Gazelle's, Phoenix, Ronnie's, Felicia's, Flash's, Bobby's, Kyle's, Travis's, and even Darson and his dad. They also seemed to be bringing a few dishes from home. Surprise! Everyone shouted. No way! Judy shouted in awe. You guys are here? Nick asked in shock. You didn't think we were going to join you guys, did you? Finnick asked. We all thought it would be great if we all spent the holidays together, Charla said. We also bought some goodies, Benji said. Come in, everyone. We got plenty of room, even with the amount of us here, Judy said, allowing everyone in. The family all went and were already introducing themselves to one of the others. Darson then stopped to have a talk with Nick. Darson, glad to see you here too, Nick said with a smile. I always spend the holidays only with my dad. It'd be nice to spend it with some friends, Darson said, smiling back at Nick. Glad you think that, Nick said, patting Darson on the back. Come on, I'll treat you to some of Mr. and Mrs. Hop's awesome blueberries. Can we get them in pie form? Darson asked. Is there any other way? Nick asked with a smirk. Those boys and blueberries, Judy thought with a shook of her head. The night was one of the best nights any of them would ever have. Friends and family joined together, sharing, caring, and laughing. At the dinner table by the fireplace, they all even sang some Christmas songs. It was a great night. One of them none of them would never forget. As the night everyone slept over and everyone was ready in bed, except for Nick and Judy, who were two by themselves in one of the halls. All right, it's midnight. It means it's officially Christmas, Judy said quietly. Everyone's asleep so we can give each other our gifts. Uh-huh, Nick said, nodding. Better do it before Santa shows up. The two then held in each other's paws tiny presents. Judy held a purple present with green ribbons, while Nick held a green present with blue ribbons. The two then gave each other's presents. Open mine first, Judy said eagerly. Nick removed the ribbon and opened up the box. Then he blushed and he sees what was inside it. He puts his paw inside and opened it out. A mistletoe. Judy then walked up to Nick and stood on her tippy toes and kissed Nick on the muzzle. Judy's eyes were closed, but Nick's eyes were wide open. He didn't seem too surprised by the kiss. After 2 seconds, Judy ended the kiss and then took a step back and smiled at Nick. Well, this is embarrassing, Nick said, still blushing. What is? The kiss? Judy asked. No, not that, Nick said before putting a smile on. Open yours. As Judy removed the ribbon from the box, she was thinking, no way, he didn't. But he did. She opened the box as it started to blush as well. She then pulled out a mistletoe just like the one she gifted Nick. Nick then leaned down and kissed Judy on her muzzle. Similar to Judy, Nick kissed her after the few seconds. Merry Christmas, Judy, Nick said with a sincere smile. Merry Christmas, Nick, Judy said, smiling back. Still playing the waiting game? Nick asked. Still playing the waiting game, Judy said. And that, my pretties, was While We're Young, a Wild Hops Christmas, a Zootopia Christmas fan fiction written by Dizzle Dizzie HamHam writer. My final thoughts on the story. I actually thought this was a really good story. I really enjoyed this a whole lot. It was really sweet, we see, Nick and Judy, getting together for Christmas with their families and I could definitely say, about the whole fact that, foxes and bunnies were natural enemies. And while that is true, but in Zootopia, it's been proved otherwise in the first movie, if you guys have not seen it. Now, I know this is a bit off topic, but I have not seen Zootopia 2 yet, but I do plan to see it eventually, so there's definitely that. So I definitely do have to say this was a really awesome story. I personally really enjoyed it. I do like the concept of it. I thought it was really neat, and it's a really cute Christmas story. I mean, it's a long one, like, oh my god, this was probably the longest Zootopia story I've ever narrated so far. But I personally do think that it's a really good one, and I personally really liked it a whole lot. I thought it was enjoyable and really well done. Now, I'm going to sit here and talk about some of the issues that I do have, and they're not really two major issues, but there's a few pointers. One of them I am going to say being the fact that there were a few spelling errors in the story. I did notice that there were a few spelling errors here and there in the story. Like, there was a couple spelling errors, and there were a few punctuation errors in the story, as well as a few grammatical errors. So, I mean, those can be fixed up, but it was still readable, though. I was still able to read it without any problem. However, I was stuttering a bit, a couple times because, either, there was punctuation errors, grammatical errors, or spelling errors, but the story was actually really good. But despite all that, I thought it was a really good Christmas Zootopia story. Now, I definitely do need to say is that, I really enjoyed this. So, as always, yeah, I want to give a shout out to the writer, Dizzie HamHam writer. So, if they're watching this story, or watching this video, I really do hope they see how well I do with this, and I really hope that they one day, ends up, seeing this video. I mean, I'm not saying they will see this video, but it would be really nice if they did. So I will leave a link to this story in the description in case if you guys want to go check out this story. And yeah, I mean, the grammatical errors and punctuation errors and the spelling errors can be fixed up, so it does need to be edited. But other than that, it was still readable. It was really sweet, and it was enjoyable. I personally really enjoyed this a whole lot. So, like I'm always going to say, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with it, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these stories. This is just simply my own personal thoughts. I give this story a 9.5 out of 10. It's a really neat story, really well done. It's definitely well written and stuff. Despite the few grammatical errors, the few punctuation errors, and a few spelling errors here and there that I did notice. But other than that, this was still readable and it was a really cute story. It was definitely really well made. So, yeah, as always, what did you guys personally think of this story? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. And let me know what would you have done to make this story a lot better. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm Shadow the Line Queen. I want to thank you so much for watching today's video. And if you're new to my channel, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications when I upload so that way you guys will not miss an upload. As always, if you guys want to go follow me on Blue Sky, follow me on Twitter, follow me on DeviantArt, and follow me on my backup channel known as Miss Dark Shigo, as links to those will be in the About page section, so you guys can go follow me on there. As always, that's pretty much all I have to say, but if I'm missing something, please let me know. And as always, I will be catching you guys all in the next video. Peace out, and as always, roll the outro, because I'm out. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.